My dear Bagginses and Buffins.
All right, welcome back. We have the trailer as promised by Amazon Prime for the Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power, dropped just around Prime Day, as we all kind of joked about, saying that this was their way of trying to entice people to get Prime not only for the online deals, but also for their web video streaming service and where Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power is going to be hosted. So we got a new trailer, and I have been told this one actually has some dialogue, which is great. So let's get into it. You ready?
Yep.
All right, so we'll do like a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and press play, and we'll play it on go. So ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
There was a time when the world was so young. There had not yet been a sunrise. But even then, there was light.
Call to me, lands far away.
Elves have forests to protect. Dwarfs their mines. Men their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other.
For I must now wander this wandering day.
We're safe.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel. Put up your sword.
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
It is over.
You have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end, not just of our people, but all peoples.
I am sorry, but their time has come.
The past is with us all. The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
Away I must wander this wandering day.
More ice climbing. So, we were wondering
was a-
about that. There's another guy ice climbing with her.
Yeah, now we kind of assume that so someone had done a still from the original trailer and had shown that they think that there's some bodies based on just their like a darker image amongst the ice. So we did kind of suspect she wasn't alone.
Oh, okay.
But this is the first time we actually saw them as well, which is nice. And we also got some good dialogue that I think answers a few people's concerns about the character of Galadriel and how much of her past is going to influence what she's doing in this show. And by that I mean, like, the concern was, why is she just running in with a sword trying to stab everyone? And it does sound like they have a explanation, an explanation. I don't know if it's going to be a good one or not, but it sounds like she is kind of done with that life, and this is almost like a call to action that brings her back. You have Elrond there trying to talk her out of it to some degree. So I think that does answer a little bit of our concerns, that it sounds like she was just almost coming in as like a conqueror almost instead of a defender. Yeah, there was a lot of focus on the hobbits in this one, and looks as though they're the ones who meet the meteorite man first.
Ah.
Like, it looked like he crash landed near them. And I guess to me, this is a good reason why the hobbits would be involved, right? Because say he landed in Gondor or near Rivendell or somewhere, heck, near some dwarves. Why would he then seek out hobbits? Like, I know it's kind of a joke that we make about the original Hobbit and then the subsequent Lord of the Rings movies. Like, why are we trusting hobbits with all this stuff? Like, nobody respects hobbits. Only Gandalf respects hobbits. So why are hobbits involved in this at all? Like, nobody even cares about hobbits. Oh, it's because he landed there. So it does kind of, it pulls them into the story, and to me, a compelling way that it actually makes sense. Otherwise, I was like, why are hobbits even involved? But I like how they're going to bring them along because they were the original discoverers of this person or creature. And I do like that it does seem there's a lot of elf dialogue between these characters that we know. The one thing I'm concerned about is we still have no scenes with dwarf dialogue or anyone talking to dwarves. We have a dwarven woman singing in one of the trailers, and we know that Elrond goes there, but we still haven't seen anything other than him. He kneels down at one point, it looks like, in a dwarven hall, almost to like pay respect, but like there's no dialogue. We don't even see dwarves in the shot of him kneeling there. So I still haven't seen any dwarves doing anything other than smashing things with rocks.
Yes.
I want to see more of that, but obviously this trailer is more, I guess, to tee up the overall plot, which is going to be, I think, very heavily elf focused because of just their impact on the history of Middle Earth. All in all, I thought it was a pretty good trailer. Some people were upset. Now, I just happened to stumble upon this, I think on Twitter, but it might have been Google News, that we don't see Galadriel's husband, like or
No.
future husband, I guess. So I don't know how big of a problem that is for the lore. To me, again, it's a trailer. I don't think that we should be diving too deep into what story tidbits were revealed and not revealed, because I think this did answer one of the big questions people had, was the character of Galadriel early on shouldn't just be some conqueror who is kind of tearing through Middle Earth defeating villains, because that's not a story that anyone, like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, that's not the elven way, that's not her way. They should be more drawn to the defense of their own kind, which then would maybe propel them to seek out the dwarves and the humans and kind of form an alliance or something. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't just be her, rampaging through, just destroying army after army by herself. So I think this answered a lot of those concerns. I was never really concerned about that. I thought that they would have a much better story angle for her to be involved in the battles than just her charging in there with no purpose.
And
But-
she's having some premonitions or something.
Yeah, and that's sort of her thing, right? That's why we all thought maybe she would work better as the pseudo Gandalf in this time period. So she could travel with some group, but she would be more like that. She would be more of like a, seeing visions, maybe having some cryptic riddles, being the one that they all look to lead, and then maybe she would have to dip out or something like that, sort of how that happens in the original trilogy. And the Hobbit trilogy, it actually happens twice, so you can never trust that guy to follow through the entire journey. But yeah,
What
I
is
was happy with it.
the around the 2-minute mark, a little earlier, the dwarf, or the dwarf prince, he's holding some sort of crystal. Has anyone said anything about that?
2-minute mark?
Yeah.
This
Oh,
could
maybe
be
not
the
2 minutes.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, you're right. It's right on 2 minutes, but like it's in between shots
Yeah.
of the timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is
The-
he even talking about? Okay, let me just
This
rewind
could be
real
the
quick.
beginning of a new era, and he's
Yeah.
holding a crystal.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
Could that be the Arkenstone from the Hobbits, maybe, or like a part of it?
Oh yeah, I never
Like
thought
it's
about
some
that.
sort of like heart of the mountain type thing. I don't know. I have no idea what he's holding up there. That does look like something that the dwarves would care about, and somehow that would propel them to set up shop in that mountain or something like that. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And then we get all the shots of the people looking up at the meteorite here. I like this shot here. This is 142. It's of Elrond and a dwarf.
Hmm.
And so this is sort of what I was more interested in, but I wish there was a scene, like a piece of a scene. So like it's obviously him walking into this dwarven underground city, which looks
Yeah.
cool, but we get no dialogue there, unfortunately. But that I really like this image. In fact, I've paused it here. It looks sweet, because that's
Yeah.
one thing we really haven't seen, even in The Hobbit. They didn't do a great job of establishing the living environment of dwarves underground. Like, do they live in houses, or like here it almost looks like apartment buildings, which is cool.
I just sort of like, in Moria when you're in that big hallway. I assume they just kind of napped against one of those pillars.
That's what it seemed like. Why build such a gigantic hallway?
And you just take a nap.
And just like because that that mountain, or I guess like that kind of dwarven structure was so old, like people hadn't been there for so long, it just looked all crumbly. But like you knew dwarves weren't gonna leave it like that if they were actively living there. So it's nice to finally see a place that dwarves are living prior to being destroyed by dragons or goblins or anything. So that I'm really excited to see more of the dwarves, because we've seen all the elves before. We've seen the hobbits. We've seen the humans, the men. We haven't really seen orcs, but I don't need to get into that as much, because I kind of just assume it's going to be really gungy and dirty looking. But dwarven areas, we get nothing, and so it's really nice to see this for once. That's why those are the scenes I'm looking most forward to right now, because I'm curious as to what they came up with in terms of the societal structure of dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
And we get more of these shots of like we almost get expanded shots. So like you mentioned the ice climbing. Well, we get a shot of them. This is at like the 52-second mark, right after the ice climbing. They're either on top of the mountain or on a different like plane of snow. So you get we're almost getting like the extension of the original trailer shots, which is nice. So we get to see she's with some people. They got these cool looking swords. We get to see the hobbits kind of look at this meteor that hits somewhat close to them, it looks like, and then they kind of like start walking towards it. We get another shot from the where is it? It's right here, 120. Yeah, 126. We get that reverse angle shot of some sort of elf. I don't know what this is. Like, it's some sort of meeting place. I don't know what if it's what it is exactly, but it's we know that they had like some sort of ceremony here in one of the trailers, and now we get a meeting between Gil-galad and Elrond, it seems, and they're going to be talking about kind of joining all the races together. So we just get a bunch of extension shots, which is nice. I know people are still upset that we haven't got a full trailer, which, I'm starting to see their way, because we are now a month and a bit out.
Yeah, we are getting close.
We haven't seen a full trailer yet, like like this is still basically a teaser because there's no full scenes. Like we haven't seen a true moment of dialogue other than a few of these elven scenes that actually do have some dialogue, but we haven't seen like, you know, you go and look at any trailer on Netflix or Amazon Prime, like where you actually get like a bit of an entire scene where you can actually kind of see what it's going to be like.
Yeah, we still have no idea what the plot is.
Yeah. Now, I will say the other thing that I was concerned about, and I believe I said this early on, was the color grading and how it just looks a little too, I don't know, like too clean. Like I'm looking at all these shots. Obviously, the elves are going to look that way, but even the hobbits look really clean. Even the scenes in like the water, I don't know. It just, I don't want that to be a distraction, because that was a big distraction for me for the Wheel of Time series, where everything just looked too like they literally just like got dressed and came onto set. Like they didn't look like they were the clothing was lived in or worn.
They've been farming. They've been out in the fields all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they have to go out in the fields and farm, but like there's just something that's really nice about the clothing in the original trilogy, where there's
You
looks
think
to be dirty.
And remember, like, didn't Sean Bean always took a very long hike
Yep,
before
he
he got
didn't
there?
like
Because he
helicopters or
wouldn't
something like that.
take the helicopter.
Yeah.
So he always made his clothes look lived in by doing
Well,
that.
and also, yeah, you mentioned that, but also if you watch the behind the scenes, I mean, I know you watched the behind the scenes, but like when they were doing a lot of those aerial shots, they would essentially just like radio or like walkie-talkie down to them and say like, run to that next rock, and then the three of them, or however many, depending on which group were there, they would just start running, and they would get to a rock, and then they would ask Peter if he got the shot, and then they might have to run to another rock. Like there was a lot of movement involved. It wasn't all on set, and so I think that really helped. But also there was we know that Peter Jackson was very detail oriented when it came to the props and when it came to the costume design, and I think that is sometimes overlooked in a lot of these fantasy shows and sci-fi shows as well, where the clothing just doesn't look like it's actually used. It looks like a costume instead of being somebody's clothing from that time period, or even just that person's clothing. So that's my one big concern that I still have. Every shot, other than this human guy that's looks like he's got like, it's almost like he's wearing like a sack. Like it's just drab gray. This is around the 147 mark, just before it maybe. 147. His clothing does look used, I will say. And I know everyone else around him, they're in like really pristine clothing because it's like some sort of Senate committee or something like that. But just even like the Hobbit clothing, it does look a little. Oh, actually, I found one good shot. The 151, there is a hole in this person's jacket. So this one, maybe there is some good costume design here. But just all in all, I gotta see it in the show to get a full feel of it. But that was my one concern, just from other shows that I've seen in this domain and shows put on by Amazon Prime. Like shows that are Prime exclusive tend to have this issue for me. And so that was my one big worry. I'm hoping they get over that hurdle, because that, I think, goes a long way to putting you into the show and really kind of settling in, instead of constantly be looking at that and saying, does that look right? You know what I mean? Like you don't want to constantly be just like questioning the design of characters and whatnot. But yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I really thought this was a pretty good trailer. Teaser, I should say. Like, I thought this was our best one yet.
I regret to announce this is the end. I bid you all a very fond farewell.